All right, very cool. Yeah, so it's great to finally meet you. I've some background about GTZY, who well, background on Suno. I'm gonna get I would love to hear more about you as like a person and artist shortly. But how I came across your stuff was ages ago when I first got on Suno and everything with that Butterflies song, which had like I remember it
Mhm.
had winding, introspective, and a couple other like things to it.
Mhm.
And what stood out for me was like I haven't really heard that much math or math rock, and like I went on
Mhm.
this huge math bender after that. So it had a big
I love it.
influence. It was a lot of fun, and it was like so good for like that early like going back. I don't know. I like it's so all the songs I listened to from back then, but the core like melody of it and everything, I really love it. So yeah, really great stuff. And then you've been featured like a number of times by Suno. I've had like a lot of yeah, cool stuff over there. And yeah, you're now you're the newer stuff you're doing is pretty awesome and incredible. I just did like a really fun cover with that, and basically, yeah, I would love to. First off, I want to know about you. Like, I don't want to pry into like your personal life, but like, are you a doctor? Are you like I know you're in the medical field, and like the Woman in White song that that one I'm like, is that about her or is this about like you know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I would love to know a bit about you and how like your life fits in with this art creation process.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you for thinking of me in this interview vibe. I feel like a couple weeks ago, I was more active on Discord. I will answer a question about medicine. And then I was like, oh, wouldn't that be funny if Yoke had asked to interview me? And I think a couple, because I was very active on Suno and like really getting in the feels and writing a
Yeah,
lot. And then I very active on the Discrot. And then you reached out and I was like, wow, would you look at that? Um, anyway, so this is really cool. I have lots to say, so thank you for
of
you.
course. Yeah,
And I want to hear from you too. But to answer your question, I am a doctor.
awesome.
The mystery has been slowly unraveled with time and with my music, and Asuno has gotten better, I think, at conveying things that I didn't even know would be a vehicle for conveying the things that I wanted to convey. So that's kind of wild. So it's
Yeah,
been a really nice way to incorporate that. I'm a resident, which is like, I don't know, you might know
it's
what residency
pre
is.
like attending or whatever. Like after you finish your residency. Okay,
Yep,
cool.
exactly. So it's you've graduated medical school, but then you're in this grueling period
Yes.
of heavy duty training. I mean, a lot of people know about it, and many hospitals across the country and the world have. There are like teaching hospitals that have residents and fellows and attendings and whatnot. So yes, I am a resident. I'm a third year resident. Um, and how does all of this fit into music and Suno? Um, well, I mean, I don't know. I think that a lot of physicians are very emotional people. Some are not, and those people are excellent surgeons. Like I would want them to operate on me. And
Yes.
even so, those people are also very. Well, I appreciate an emotional surgeon because it yields good bedside manner. Um, but that is just a little slice of the connection, I suppose.
Okay, gotcha. So basically, you're in your residency, but well, so my thing is like, what's been very cool for me was first off, kind of, I already was like, I think she's in the medical field just from your music alone. But then
Mm,
getting like confirmation, sort of like from some of the statements you made, I was like, this is like kind of cool because you have this artist who, like, did you do art before you got into this stuff, or were you mostly like very focused on like do you have a pre-existing relationship with art and artistic expression, I guess is my question there, because you're doing great. It's really cool stuff.
Thank you. I do. Yes, I do. I um, sort of dabbled in a bunch of instruments growing up and singing. I took singing lessons. I played piano and I hated. practicing, so that didn't really go anywhere, but I can, play chords and, make sounds. So that's that. And then yes, I play guitar. I'm not particularly good at any instrument that I do, but
but you can play them. That's definitely a
yes,
common
yes,
theme I see with people who get into Suno and stuff. Is a lot of people who
right.
basically had other. It takes an enormous amount of time to be really, really skilled at these sort
Mhm.
of instruments, like at the level that you in your head to make the stuff that you want to create get there.
Right.
And so, but a lot of people, like, I grew up playing keyboard. I also have played guitar, but like if
Yeah.
you're not doing it all the time, it's I mean, aside from just like the actual muscles in your hand and like the calluses, etc., like you
Totally.
also, there's a ton of stuff to learn. It never really ends. And especially if you want to make what's in your head a reality. So you see a lot of people who just kind of like mess around for fun with instruments, end up getting on Suno and just going wild. Or any of the other, musical expression platforms. So you have a background with that. And then you got onto here in the middle of your residency. That boggles my mind. I don't know how you have the time. Thank you for talking to me today when you're like such a busy
Sure.
woman.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So basically, you're just putting these songs together, like in whatever spare time you have, as like kind of a like. I mean, certainly it's an emotional outlet for me. A lot of your songs are very emotional, very interesting, and
Mhm.
and I can tell, some of them it feels like obviously we all write things that are have stories that aren't necessarily entirely our own or things that occur to us and stuff, but
Right.
I just
Right.
get the
Right.
feeling from some of your stuff that there's some of you in there, which is definitely always a good thing to get when you're enjoying an artist. And yeah, I want to know like your take. Do you find this to be like a useful, I guess, like release almost? I don't know what most artists feel with this kind of stuff, but I'm curious about that aspect of your process.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I do. I certainly do. I think music has always been that way for me, listening to music and then playing music, whatever avenue that may be. I write a lot,
Okay.
all sorts of writing.
Do you write your
I,
lyrics? Or
oh yeah,
okay, awesome.
yeah. I write. There are a couple of songs that I've used Remy on,
Uh huh.
like earlier in the year, whenever Remy was released and was cool.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of songs that I messed around with Remy and that I really like. I really like what it did.
Yeah.
I have I had made a song called "I Know I'm Not Your Lover," which is like just all Remy.
I think I remember that. But yeah, there's a
Yeah.
there's Remy can do some good stuff. It was kind of surprising back
Yep.
then. Um,
It's really good, and I picked and chose what I liked out of it.
yes.
But I do write my own stuff, and I think that's how I got into Suno actually is perhaps I'm more of a writer than a musician, although I think I can carry my weight with with music to some extent.
Hmm.
You don't have like I'm not a musician by profession. I don't think I could ever be. I mean, you don't have the studio quality stuff, production and all that.
Right.
So it's been really nice to, press 10, 15, 20, 100x on that process using Suno and using everything that comes from my writing. Like my writing is very spontaneous. I find that when I sit down and I'm like, okay, I have 5 minutes after I've just walked back from work and I'm going to write, that I don't really write anything. But when I'm like on that walk back from work, you're seeing everything around you. And so, like, to your point that the writing, there's pieces of me in it, that's very true. That's awesome that you noticed that. I don't think I can help that fact because I am
That's good.
pro.
Adding
Yeah,
like something real into your writing, I think is really important. It's about as metaphysical as you'll hear me get. I'm not a very I don't know, spiritual guy, but when it comes to like that part of art, like putting a bit of like your own soul into it, if that makes any sense, I think it matters. Your experience, because it adds something that when it comes into the person consuming it, you can tell when something's like a little bit phony or a little bit like, oh, I'm putting something in the audience, but then you have something else where I'm like, I don't know what this experience is, but this woman experienced something. and like there's like a certain authenticity there that I just really love. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, no worries. I think uh, you can probably really see that in the last, like, I don't know, 5, 10 songs that I've made public that I don't know, something happened recently where I started writing differently. I think part of it was, I think for a certain time I didn't want to make it public, whatever that means, whatever, however many people were looking at my stuff,
Right.
that I was a woman. And I don't actually know why. I think I was just very in, like I was like the mystery is kind of cool. Like
Right.
if I release songs and it's a male vocalist, like maybe that's cool. I don't know. I didn't really
I get it. I get it. I mean, I think, I mean, that's sort of, I don't know about your experiences, but I know from people I know, it's almost like a protection mechanism, not a protection mechanism, but people treat you differently sometimes. And like you have this community where you're respected, the stuff that you're producing, and then, you know, you have stuff where it's like all of a sudden that gets involved somehow. It's kind of, can be frustrating. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just based on the few women I know in my life and their lived
Right.
experiences.
Right.
but
Right.
but you know, in terms of the music itself, I always assumed you were a woman. I've been wrong
Oh, that's
before, but like but like I thought it was fairly I thought you were fairly on the nose with that. But at the same time, you never really can tell. So it's very cool to actually meet you in person, it's so to speak.
yeah.
Okay, I'm curious to know about moving on from like some of the background stuff. Do you have any sort of a like when you're creating something with this? Do you have any sort of a process? Like, what is your process like in terms of making stuff? Obviously, we went a little bit into your writing, the sort of like taking inspiration from material events happening in your life. It's
Mhm.
interesting. The one of the other women I interviewed, Francesca, delved deeply into that same sort of thing, where she described it as almost like because she travels a lot and putting like basically turning her music into like almost like a form of travel by sort of like transmuting that. And in some sense, I get the same feeling from your stuff in as much as the experiences that you have, I don't experience them directly. They're totally like there's a layer of abstraction, but I get something from it that's emotional, which is hard to find on Suno. So I do appreciate the writing component, and I don't know. It's just interesting that that's in common there. But I'm curious beyond the writing, etc. How do you turn this into these awesome, winding, uniquely sounding tracks?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thank you for saying that. It means a lot when listeners can appreciate that, and I think it takes a certain type of listener to appreciate that. So
Well,
that
thank you.
goes without saying.
I try to be a good listener. What can I say?
You're right, right. I could tell in your music. Um, and so I think a lot of it has to do with the kind of music that I like and that I listen to. And that is a long story in and of itself. I grew up maybe a little more stereotypical, and you could probably tell this too, listening to pop punk, Avril Lavigne, Evanescence, emo.
I mean, who did? I mean, come on. We all grew up. You know what I mean? I listen
We
to
all
all
grew
the
up
same things, of course.
all the same things,
Yeah.
very edgy, very like, why are you listening to this at 10? Kind of a thing, but I was like, I'm so cool. Sometime when I went to college, I started really listening to not atypical music. It's not atypical, but just like different sounds.
Mhm.
That was the first time I explored Radiohead more deeply, and I played In Rainbows,
Yeah, and
like
Rainbows is great.
back to back in loop, like falling asleep listening to it, getting blackout drunk listening to it, like all those things. I listened to like I kind of went backwards in time. I listened to Pink Floyd,
Oh, cool.
um, uh, all sorts of weird things like Jethro Tull, when no one would expect a woman in her 20s to be listening to Jethro
Right,
Tull.
and like this far after, yeah.
Yeah, like that's the most like what's the word? I don't know. That's the most, man in his 50s, 60s who
Right.
smokes a week kind of a thing. But that's what I listened to. And so many more things. I found Jeff Buckley, and his album Grace is one of my most favorite albums of of all
I
time. There's
haven't heard
so
of
many
Jeff
albums.
Buckley. I'll write that down. That's
Yeah,
one I'll check out.
yeah. He only has one album that he released, and that's unfortunately because he passed away
Ah,
in an accident, a drowning accident.
wow.
Um, is
More
what
than
at least is publicized. Yeah. Um, but I mean, there are so many albums. I wish I had written them down and I could like
you can always, you
send
know
them.
what? You can send me over some recommendations or like background and stuff. I'll post it up with the interview so people can check that stuff out. I do that all the time with people's like recommended
Totally,
stuff. So I would love that.
totally,
Always looking
totally.
to find new artists. So
Yes, of course. And I likewise on my end. Just to name a few more, Hiatus Coyote, Mute Math, highly recommend. I
I
think
haven't heard of either
a
of
lot
these. I'm gonna get these from you.
of people, I think a
Are
lot
these
of the
math like sound or more of the classic rock that you were in
um
that era?
no, Mute Math is a little mathy.
Okay.
It's less crazy than some of the things that I like and some of the things that I end up releasing on Suno. I think at least, but really good. It's like it is rock, but there's a lot of electronic in it, a lot of synths. The production is really
Cool.
good and clean, so it like mixes those two
This is
elements.
like you're describing your music right now in many ways. You
Exactly.
the mix of those two things. Okay, so awesome. I'm gonna have to
Exactly.
check this out.
Exactly. So I think that's probably how I end up choosing the prompts that I do. And even that has evolved from the beginning of Suno, like from version. I can't even remember if they started with the version 2, like if that was like the
Oh
20. I can't
yeah.
even. I think that's probably anyway.
I think you
But
were. Yeah, I don't know. I can't. I don't remember seeing your stuff on version 2. The first thing I remember seeing is version 3. But I feel like you were
yeah,
there from the time I was there. So, anyway, yeah.
yeah, I was there from the very beginning.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Awesome.
and so that is the even the way that you can create prompts right now has progressed massively.
Yeah.
And so I think it's allowed, and I know you do this, it's allowed people to be a lot more creative with the kind of inputs they give. And so I have found that giving like weird inputs and like things that are not necessarily music, but it's like these are things that these are sounds.
Yeah.
Like I do a lot of ocean waves, undulating, bouncing, sparkly, glittery, on top of all the like the math and stuff. And I've been
Right.
doing a lot of like using R&B as a prompt a lot more because I like the groove of it.
Yeah.
So that I feel like that is kind of the secret sauce of Suno, right? Because you're not coming up with the melody unless you sing or give an audio input, which is
True.
another thing that I'm trying to do more of.
Yeah.
But you can give it really cool prompts and get really cool things. Like you can spend hours just messing around with
Oh
that.
yeah.
Granted, I have no credits to do so, but
So you're
yeah,
basically you're. It sounds like you're doing basically like layering. Like you have your basic genre prompts, etc. The things that people would think of when they first come on Suno, and they're like, how can I make something that sounds like something I like? But then over time, you've kind of learned these more like esoteric things, like yeah, you do undulating or I've seen people
Mhm.
put the strangest terms in there that but they become attached to like this sort of
Right.
it creates a the way I describe it is like it's a vector. It represents a direction in this like music space, and so when you have a set of keywords, you kind of learn where that direction is implicitly. It's kind of
Yeah,
similar to when you're making music, where you know where your song is supposed to go. You understand, like you start to get a sort of like what's the word, muscle memory for what comes next. And I feel like with Suno, especially with heavy users like you, which is interesting that you're such a heavy user and you're a resident. I find this preposterous, but also just like
well, you gotta have hobbies,
incredible.
you know?
Yeah, no, it's great. This is just like as another Suno person, it's a very heavy hobby. But you know, like it's awesome. I think it's great that I mean, like of course you should. Like it's a great idea in terms of like, I mean you can't you know. There, one of the things I like about Suno is, or all the platforms like this, all the different things along these lines is, not everybody has this much time to be a professional
Mhm.
musician in their spare time, but everyone has something they want to say. Everyone has art in them. And I kind of feel like a lot of great art, I'm in it for the art. I don't care where it comes from personally. I'm in it because I love beautiful sounds and I love hearing people's stories and it's enriching for me. and helps me to get through my day. And so when I get to hear this awesome stuff, for me that's what's beautiful. Like hearing people like you on Suno, and just like being able to, I mean, having the chance to like actually interview people like you is also awesome. But like hearing y'all's music, and that wouldn't exist otherwise. Like, yeah, you might make some songs on the guitar or like piano, but it wouldn't be anything like, just even Butterflies versus, and then all the way down to where we're at now, because you can spend the time writing, you can spend the time doing all this other stuff. So anyway, that's my little rant on how lucky I feel to be able to get access to all this amazing music, especially recently.
Yeah.
Okay,
Likewise.
so do you have any other components to your method? Like, do you usually go with like your first, like you do an iteration and choose the best one, or do you do covers? You do extensions? What's your sort of method, a little bit more in depth, if you can?
Yes, all of the above to some extent.
Okay.
There was a time with version 3.5 and version 4 where the first creation was always the best for some reason. Like I think Butterflies was actually like a first generation, or like a first gen, and then I had to like extend it once or twice to get the whatever 3 minute and something song, and it was really good after that.
Yeah.
More recently, it has not been the first.
Right.
So, um, I don't know. I think I end up hitting create or whatever a lot of times, and with the newer versions, you can create really long songs.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. And then extend on top of that. Um, I find that recently there's been a lot of like empty space towards the end of a song, even if you give it like a traditional
True. I have. Yeah. You
chorus.
get some gaps sometimes, I've seen.
Some gaps, which I don't mind, but what I didn't like too much is when a song will end with the lyrics and then we'll add like a minute or two of just like vibes, which
Yes.
sometimes great. Or sometimes you kind of like, okay, when you actually have time to think about the architecture of a song a little more, when someone like or something like Suno has already given you an architecture, and then that's why things like studio and the editor and all that are kind of like actually really cool for people who are musically inclined or creative or sound inclined, because then you can think really deeply about strengthening the architecture of a song a lot. So I've been doing that more recently. Like I recently got access to their like alpha or beta studio or whatever.
Cool.
And yeah, it's really cool. It's like because I have thought a lot about, okay, what if I plug this into Ableton? What if I try to extract stems? I'm not a music producer. I have no skills in music production. I've never taken a class, blah, blah, blah. Like the most I've done is sit with the shitty like tin can microphone and around in not even Ableton, but like this free music editing thing called Audacity.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
have
don't
Audacity.
know
We're
but
all in there. Yeah.
we've all been there. We've all
Yeah.
been there. So yeah, no, I'm not a music producer, but I really, really like different types of music.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is part of my creative limb is just putting things together, like adding that last chorus, because I like it when there's a gap and wild instrumentals, and then you go all of a sudden it rises into like bam, that chunky chorus all over again in the end. It's like, oh, good.
Right, you know what you
Uh,
want, even though you're not. It's not like you can tell it like, oh, these are the set of notes, but you still like oh, it's supposed to go up here, and it should go, and so you're set. And it's been more like lackluster towards the end here, in the more recent stuff.
yeah, recently, yes, but more to say, it's like there's always room for improvement.
True.
And yeah, I find myself that I'm able to be more and more picky because the production quality has gotten so realistic, but also so compatible to fine tuning for people like me who just I can't sit with straight laced pop anymore.
Right.
I mean, I like pop, but I also just like when I'm in an Uber or something and someone turns on like pop or something, I just like cringe inside and I want to just
Because you've
open the
heard, I mean,
window and
you've heard it enough. I think that's like we all like you were talking about. You loved Avril Lavigne. You listened to your Evanescence. If I was a
right.
kid again, I would love that stuff. And it's not nothing to do with it being childish or something. It's just I think people want nuance, or they want it's like when you've been exposed to the same trope in the same movie over and over again. You see the movie again, you already know what's going to happen. It's a different setting, it's different characters, but you know that
Right.
like he's going to die and she's going to go. It's Shakespeare told the
Yeah.
story already, right? So with
Yeah.
music,
Yeah.
you want something novel to really like trick you, something that almost makes you feel embarrassed that you didn't know where it was going to go. So I
True.
get where you're going. I 100%.
True.
And Suno lets
But
you do
it's
that, which is
yes, it has that. It lets you go as wild as you want, and
yeah,
sometimes it goes wild without even you asking for it.
right.
But it's that fine line between, am I doing that just because, like, is it me, or is there a universal acceptance of I want to go outside of the lines? Because sometimes it seems like no, it must just be me because everyone around, like the people around me, there's very few people around me except like people in my inner circle, and even in that inner circle, like there are very few people around me who I'm close to for other reasons than music, who experience music and engage in music in the same way that I do. And like many times, like at work, I'm like, I ask people, what kind of music do you listen to? And people are like, oh, I don't know, and I was like, that's fair, like that's fair. And maybe they just can't explain, but I don't even know where I was going with this. But oh, we were talking about kind of the unorthodox creation and consumption of music.
Yes.
Um, so I don't know. Like I think there are some people who really like the out of the box thing. I 100% do, and I think there is some component, but there is a limit to that. I think
Right.
everybody has their limit, but I think for me, like I know my personality, I know who I am. Like the fact that I like doing things that are 80% weird at the minimum
Right.
is also like purely um a manufactured product of who I am as a person.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like
think that's true. I think that's. I
right
mean, we
ahead.
all like. I think at a certain point in Suno, you realize you're like, oh yeah, other people aren't making music like this, and they don't want to listen to music like this necessarily. That's also
Mm,
okay. Like that's
yeah.
because there are people who do enjoy it anyway, and there's we got billions of people now on the planet. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's lots of people who want that, and I think to go to that the especially when you're talking about the weirdness sliders. Like now that you have this
Mhm.
weirdness slider capability, it's almost like a you can almost box people by weirdness sliders where like
Yeah.
what's your musical inclination more or less. But no,
Yeah.
it's not exactly that simple. But it's just I find it kind of funny though. But anyway, it's interesting because you kind of what you're talking about to me is when I hear you talk about this sort of exploration in your art, it just I think that most people just don't necessarily want to make art. And you're someone who makes art all the time. So your consumption is like so wildly different. And I think I think that's just like the whole artist thing is, you're so deep into it. Well, I love it. I love the stuff you've been making. And yeah, if there's is there an artist in aside from me or I guess any of the usual names like Alex Ayers or Cake or any of them? Is there someone on Suno or really any of these other platforms that that really wowed you that you're like, hey, people should check this person out? If you can't think of one offhand, that's also okay. You can
Yeah.
just send me one later on. But if you know someone offhand, I would love to hear a little bit about that. And
Yes.
yeah,
To- There is. I think I have actually brought them up in the Discrot. Billy's in the Forest. I think that's their name.
I think I remember this person already.
Yes. Yes.
Those in the
They,
Hidden Gems.
yeah, yep. They must have autoplayed off of something that I was listening to. And I don't remember the first song. I remember this was sometime in the spring. They had released this song about like a giant boulder. Lyrics that were like not a meme, but also not um I don't even know how to describe the lyrics. It wasn't
Well, that's
emotional
interesting.
sentiment. But it but it also wasn't like, how people make songs about cats
Right. It
and like
wasn't like low
I love
brow or low effort, but it wasn't like a deeply like whatever song. It was just kind of yeah. I'm interested to
yeah.
see this already. It's just it sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
It was like their version of chaotic. And I knew that this was different, the sentiment was different, but the sound production that they had chosen, like the creation that they had chosen to publish was something that I liked too.
Hmm.
Not just the song content, but also the I mean, long and the short of it is that it had math in it. Um, and all of his stuff has math in it.
Okay.
And I think he was recently featured on staff picks because I pushed someone to make it a staff pick. And so, but it truly deserves to be because it really highlights the breadth of Suno. And I don't know, almost like 90% of what this person puts out, I think is really good. Yeah, I don't know what more to say about
I'll
this person,
post
but
some and I'll post a link to their thing. I think it's
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think Off Tune really knows how obsessed I am with this person. Somehow find my comments and I keep commenting on Billies in the Forest songs. And then at one point, like this guy has had one follower. And at one point I comment on it, like I do my usual, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Wow, wow, wow. And then he was like, lol, thanks, you're my biggest fan. And I'm like, well, can you give your biggest fan a follow back? And then now he's following two people. So I don't know if I said he has one follower. He has many followers now, but he had been following one person and now he's
awesome.
following two people. And I'm the other one. He never comments, a nickel or a dime on any of my stuff. I've never seen him like my stuff. I don't really care. I don't mind, but it's interesting. And he commented on one of the songs, the one that ended up on staff picks. He said, um, I wrote this song like 15 years ago in college. And I find like that, like, I actually resonated that because that's actually what I did in the beginning is that I had a lot of like songs that I had written that
Hmm.
had words, that had melody, like me and my guitar or me and a piano that I also just once the audio input feature of Suno became better that let you like publicize songs with your own audio in it, except you just, I don't want people to hear my my own voice singing necessarily and just make that like unreleasable. That's like that doesn't not that it really matters, but I don't know anymore these days. But
I get it. I
um
understand. But yeah, but
I,
it's very cool to be able to take your previous work and
yeah,
then make it anything. like um,
truly, I mean, make it something other than just, a voice on a voice memo app on your phone and a guitar that sounds clinky and choppy because
right.
you're not good at guitar necessarily.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I mean, I feel very chaotic a lot of the time,
Hmm.
but I reel it in, because I have a life and a profession and but you find the chaos that people have within them in so many interesting ways.
True.
So many different outlets. And I feel like at work, a lot of people don't know that about me. They're like, "Wow, you're so calm. Like you're you're the person I want when like it's hitting the fan and stuff like that." And I'm like,
I feel like that's a part of it. Really, I get the same sort of stuff from people where it's like I'll write like sometimes very very sad things, and a lot of them are
right,
real. But like I'm not a
yeah,
sad person, and people are like, oh, how do you? And I'm like, maybe it's because I write all this stuff. I don't really know. Like it is profoundly. I feel sad sometimes when I like, and also music will bring it out. Like sometimes I will feel profound emotions, but like the rest of my life, I'm like very genuinely happy most of the time. I'm not
yeah,
projecting that onto you, but you feel. I think there's something to the process of making art, and I hopefully with it being more accessible, more people are able to experience that, where it's almost like maintenance. It just keeps you kind of. It helps people manage their emotional states, whatever. Especially for someone like you who's going to be handling people's lives quite literally. I imagine that in some sense it is in service of whether people know it or not who you are as a person, what's made you such a great well, actually you could be a terrible doctor. No, I'm just kidding. What's made you such a great medical professional who will one day save a bunch of people's lives as the attending physician wherever it is. Well, awesome. This has been a really good interview, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And I wish you the
yeah.
best of luck on the rest of your residency. Yeah, and also, keep us tuned in on all that stuff. Like I hope aside from we're all listening to your music, but like would love to hear more about you as your life progresses, because you frankly have a super interesting story. All right, that's it for the interview, and.